Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Karen Smith Fraser podcast. I have a special treat for you today. But today is podcast number 17, and I have a special guest that I will introduce to you in a few minutes. But during my podcasts, my goal is to help people who are caregivers, whether it be at home or in community, at work, but those who feel called to serve others, move from feeling like they're stuck in the ways they have to serve and the ways they serve or feel unfulfilled, and to help them gain clarity in ways that they can continue to serve community, and also answer their calling. And, you know, one of the reasons that I felt called to, share this platform was because I have been in this situation where, from as far as I can remember, I remember when people would ask me what I wanted to do when I was little, and it would be, I want to take care of people. And in my mind, that meant a nurse or a teacher. And so I became a nurse. And I love the profession. And I worked as a nurse for 30 years, over 30 years. And the last 17, I worked in schools, 12 as a school nurse, and very fulfilling, very challenging at times, as many times service, caring for others can be. But, after, I'd say, I don't know, about 3 years ago, I felt just this yearning to do something different, to serve in a different way. And I've been doing that in my work with Africans on the East Side, but also I felt a yearning to um, be a resource for people who were in my shoes, who were doing the work and serving, but felt a little stuck and stifled in their positions. And so, for me, I could have just turned around and, changed, but I was dragging my feet. And it wasn't until March 2023 that I got in a car accident, and I got a concussion, and I was not able to go back to work. And it was at that time that I felt, actually at the time of the accident, I as the airbag, was in my face, I said, "Okay, God, you got my attention." And that was when I really thought about, okay, Karen, what is it that God is calling you to do? And why are you dragging your feet? And so I'm just encouraging you just to be open to that voice, that yearning in your being that's calling you to something bigger. We're all blessed with so many talents, and so many times we hide them. But all those talents and gifts aren't just for us, and we are meant to be a light to others. And hopefully, you will be encouraged to do so as you meet my guests and as we travel this journey together. So, I am going to introduce you to my special guest, Erin Jones, who is a nationally recognized uh, educator. She has been working around schools for the past 32 years. She has taught in a variety of environments, from predominantly Black institutions to predominantly white institutions, to some of the most diverse communities in the nation. Erin received an award as the most innovative foreign language teacher in 2007 while teaching in Tacoma, Washington, and was the Washington State Milken Educator of the Year in 2008 while teaching in Spokane. Erin has been a community leader, and she's an author, and I'm going to let her introduce herself because I could probably read the whole list and you wouldn't even get to her. So I don't have any applause, but I'll have to pretend that I'm hearing it, right? All right, everybody give a hand. I'd like to introduce you to Erin Jones. Hey, Erin. Thanks for
Hey,
being
friend.
here.
Of course, of course, of course. Excited to be here.
So
Yeah.
glad. Erin and I have met several times here and there while I was doing my work, she was doing her work. Oh, there goes the applause. We got some applause from Sonia. Uh, but I would like you just to, who is Erin Jones? Just let's tell us
Yeah,
about yourself.
I'll do the quick version. I actually do whole school assemblies on this and whole keynotes on this. But I am a biracial, transracially adopted kid. And I just learned literally a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, that I am actually the product of an affair between a white woman and a black man back in 1970. Well, the affair would have been in 1970 because I was born in 1971. She was married to a white man and she knew that the baby was going to pop out brown. And so she had to tell her husband, and she made a choice to him, not me. And so I was left to be adopted.
Mm.
And a lot of people would see that as rejection, but I was adopted by two really incredible people. So shout out to mom and dad, Bruce and Dorothy Adamson. I was adopted by a white couple from northern Minnesota. I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I was adopted by a couple from small towns in northern Minnesota, the Iron Range. And they decided to adopt black babies, and they adopted me, both educators, trained educators, two of the most amazing people that you will ever meet, two of the most humble, quiet people you'll ever meet. My dad is my dad, not probably, he is my favorite math teacher ever. I had my dad 2 years, freshman and sophomore year of high school, for honors math. Hardest teacher I've ever had, best teacher I've ever had.
Uh,
Um, just an incredible, he's so dedicated to his craft. He's retired now. He's been retired about 15 years now, but so dedicated to his craft as a math teacher. My mom started in early childhood and then helped out in special education, and eventually she became a consumer science teacher, home economics, and she got to build her own kitchens. And anyway, she also is super
wow.
dedicated to her craft. But most importantly, they are my biggest fans, and they invested life in me. We moved to Europe. My dad taught at the American School of The Hague starting in 1976. And so I grew up in one of the best private schools in the world where my parents both taught. And I would go to school there until I was 18, and I got a scholarship back to college in America. Um, that was a huge shock for me. My white parents worked really hard to make sure that I knew about the history of Black people in America. So I came back to the United States having read Alice Walker and James Baldwin and Malcolm X, and knowing about Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement and all that. But I was really unprepared to be a Black person in America in the 80s. And that I came crashing into that when I came back to college in 1989. I actually got accepted at Princeton, but I didn't get enough scholarship money to go there. And so I ended up at the sister college to Princeton in Philadelphia, and realized that if you're in the city of Philadelphia, being a Black person is a very different thing than being in the suburbs. And the suburbs that my college was in, very white, very old money white. And what that meant is, if you were Black, you were meant to be serving things. There were still maids in homes and drivers and cooks and all of that. And my college was, there were 10 Black women at my college at the time I was there. All of our faculty were white, every single one. Every administrator was white. We had maids and they were Black. We actually had actual maids at the college in our dorms, and they were all dark-skinned Black women. All of the
This
kitchen
was in
staff.
what year?
1989.
Okay.
I know. So for young people, when I tell young people, I'm like, y'all think this history is 100 years ago, and this is my adult lifetime. This is in my time. Um, but I was in for a rude awakening because even though I was a student at the college and I was there on an academic scholarship, I was met immediately with doubt. I happened to also be a really great athlete, and I played soccer and basketball my freshman year. And the number of students who just assumed I was there on an athletic scholarship.
Yeah.
And and so I was constantly having to navigate these narratives that people had about people like me. And
Yeah.
even my dean at the college, when I told her at the beginning of my sophomore year, I think I want to major in English, French, and Spanish, and she just looked at me and said, "You? Are you sure?" And it made it really obvious. Now
Yeah.
as an educator, now I know she never read my transcripts, but I spoke English, Dutch, French, and Spanish fluently when I came to America. I was just asking for three of those to major in. I had taken AP exams in all three of those. In
Erin,
fact,
you
I
just say just 3. I was just asking for just 3 of those. Okay, okay.
but I say all that to say this. What adults believe about young people matters, and I
Yes.
had the incredible gift of growing up in an environment where every adult believed I could be amazing. And then I came to the States and that wasn't true. And I knew by the end of my freshman year, I want to be that for kids who look like me in this country. And
Mhm.
so I decided to stay in America. By the end of my freshman year, I knew I wasn't going home. And I told my parents, I'm not coming back. I'm going to be you, but I'm going to be you here in the country that I was born in. And that
Mhm.
was 35 years ago. And I've been investing in young people and in educators across the United States for all of that time.
Yeah, well, that's wow. That is pretty wild. I see you as someone who is creating, I mean, all of that love that you received, you're putting back into the
Yeah,
youth here, and they're growing up into adults. And
they
they
are.
have, if you've been here that long,
Mhm. Yeah,
then they are the adults now. And but what I'm thinking about are those people who did not have an Erin Jones
yeah,
and who
yeah,
grew up without those supports and
yeah,
who are now as adults and working adults who are challenged with
yeah,
wondering what are they supposed to do, is my job who I am. And I always talk about you're not a human doing, you're a
yeah,
human being.
yeah,
And so often it is easy to get swallowed up in the work. And so as caregivers, a lot of times that, people have a desire to serve, but they get swallowed in to thinking that, they're not good enough unless they keep serving, and
yeah,
to the detriment of their health. And
yeah.
so I think just you being a great example. Well, I mean, you mentioned your sports. What other activities do you do that?
Can I give you, before I jump into that though, can I give you a little analogy about caregivers
Yeah.
and health?
Yes.
Because this is something that I've been sharing really since the pandemic, because I realized that during the pandemic, I lost every consulting job that I had and had to really reimagine who am I going to be, how am I going to show up, and just as I was watching other education leaders and other servant leaders, so firefighters and police and just all these other people in the service industry give, 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 I had this revelation, and I happen to be a person of faith too, and so I just felt this little voice inside of me say, when a car runs out of gas, we know it's running out of gas because often you have a light that flashes, getting close to E, getting close, you have this many miles till you're on E. And when your car runs out of gas, it literally will stop moving, right? And so you have to either walk and walk with the can and go get some gas, or you got to make sure you get to a gas station right away. When a car runs out of oil, you may have a light that flashes. Some cars don't though. Some cars just have that sticker that says, "Hey, you should go get your oil changed
Hmm.
this time." Some cars don't have a sign on them. And so you can hear the rumbling in your car, but there's no sign that says, "Hey, oil change now. You need that oil change." And your car will continue to run for a while without an oil change. It'll continue to run for a while without oil, unlike gas. So you can run your car into the ground, because what
Yep.
happens when you don't have oil over time is it burns out the engine.
Belcher
I
engine.
think
Yep.
so many caregivers are putting gas in their car, but they're not getting the oil changed.
Hmm.
And here's the analogy for me that I share with lots of leaders and educators and other servant leaders is I am 50, I'll be 54 in about a month and a half. Our generation was taught that you just give. You give, and that pouring into yourself is selfish. We were taught that. We were taught to just give, give, give. But what I have realized the older I get, and I'm going to give credit to Angela Davis. I got to meet the activist Angela Davis about 12 years ago. And by the way, she speaks French as well. So we got to speak French to each other, which
Right.
I love doing that with other Black people because it just freaks folks out.
Yes,
And
it does. Oh, let's break
uh,
some stereotypes,
uh-huh,
please.
yeah, uh-huh. So she and I spoke French together, but I asked her if you could go back to your 60s self, what would you tell her? And she said, if I could do anything different, I would take naps. I would have
Mm,
rested. And so my invitation to all of you that are caregivers is you're running out of oil. And some of y'all need to take a nap, and that's okay. And we cannot pour out of empty. We can't do it. And
nope.
there are so many caregivers that I see, including my mom, who probably will listen to this later. She's caring for my dad who has Parkinson's. It is really easy to give until you burn out your engine
Yep.
and not do the things that really feed your soul. So I have a rule for myself every day, spirit, mind, body. I do something. So I wake up 15 minutes before I have to get up. I listen to a meditation app and I'm still for 15 minutes. I am a runner now. So today I actually have a 9 mile run. I'm prepping for a half marathon. So I have a 9 mile run today. I will do that. And I'm 53 years old. The older I get, the more I have to really make sure that I'm taking care of my physical body
Have to be
because
intentional.
you have
Mhm.
to. And the older I get, the more that's important. And I want to speak to something that you kind of mentioned this, but I'm going to call it out because I think it's really important. All of us have that inner voice, and so many of us have shut her off and just we don't trust her, and we've been taught to not trust her. Just keep going, Erin.
Exactly.
Just keep going. Just keep
Nope.
going. And the older I get too, the more I am listening to that when that little voice says, "Hey, Erin, time for a nap. Stop what you're doing right now. Okay, turn there, Erin. Don't do that thing. Don't say yes. Say no. Say yes to that thing." I want to challenge everybody listening to trust that inner voice in you.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
that inner voice says enough, enough, trust that and don't try to be a badass and just do more because you were not made to do more than you can do.
Nope.
You were made to do exactly what you can do. And so just do that.
Yep, yep. And the thing is, those things that you were created to do, nobody else can do them, but it doesn't mean you got to do them
Absolutely.
right now.
Absolutely.
And it's not supposed to be something that you're sacrificing yourself over to get it done. So many times we think that we're the only ones, and that was me. I mean, that was me
Yeah.
for a while.
Me too.
If I leave this position, who can handle all of
Mhm.
this?
Mhm.
And the reality was that I wasn't changing my oil.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was also people pleasing. I didn't
Yeah.
want to let anybody down. I wanted to take care of the kids. I mean, the
Yeah.
families, they needed me and I was
Yeah.
the only one who could do it. And that was like essentially ego tripping. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just
Yeah.
call it what it is. And as I was unfortunately forced to listen to my inner voice because I had been talking about it, praying about it, and it wasn't until that accident that it was like, Karen, now, really?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
plans for you. And so, really, I'm just really encouraging, and thank you for encouraging me to listen to that inner voice and to acknowledge that there are more things for you to do that can get done without you having to sacrifice life and limb to get done.
Mm. Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about or ask you about is if you could share a time where you had set a goal for something and it didn't pan out. And so it looked like a failure from the outside, but maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
Was
So
there
I
any?
I wore a t-shirt specifically for today. It says chase the dream, not the fame. Um And one of the things that I am a firm believer in is that you're gonna fail. Failure is inevitable. I am a pretty top level athlete. I played college soccer and basketball. I would go on to try out for two WNBA teams. At 50, I started running, and I'm a pretty high level runner at 53 years old. So sports have always been a part of my life. And one of the things I tell people is I learned the greatest lessons in life from being an athlete. One of the things you learn as an athlete, even as a top level athlete, is failure is inevitable.
Yep.
You are going to
Yep.
fail. I don't care if
Yep.
you're Michael Jordan or you're Paige Beckers from UConn, you are going to fail. And if you are searching for fame, and if you're seeking to just win all the time, then you will fail at life. That's what I'm just tell you that right now.
Mm, mm.
I have a dream, chasing the dream. My dream is that people thrive. I want everyone in this country to thrive, especially children, but I just want people to thrive. I want every space that I'm in to be better because I was there. And so it's not about winning and losing, it's about
Mm.
really pursuing the dream. And so there are a number of things that I have done, and there's so many things that I've done in life that I went in hoping for a particular outcome that didn't turn out the way that I wanted. I'll share two that I think are the most pertinent in this moment. The more recent one is I ran for state superintendent in 2016. I am the first Black woman and the only Black woman in the state of Washington to run statewide ever. So nobody's run statewide since me. Nobody ran before me. I ran to lead our public schools and I lost that race by less than 1 percentage point. I had never run for anything. I never run for
I
school
voted
board.
for her, by the way.
Thank you. But I had never run for any office, not in high school, not in college, not for school board. I'd never done anything, but I felt like God said in 2015, I felt really clearly like God said, now's the time, run. And
Mhm.
I remember towards the end of the election cycle, so it must have been the first week in November, I felt like I heard that little voice that say to me, Erin, I asked you to run. I didn't ask you to win. I asked you to run. Run through the finish line, Erin. Just run. And I did. And our race was actually the closest race in the state. So it took them
Yep.
3 weeks to tally up all the scores. And so I had to just sit in limbo. And people would ask me, well, what's your plan for if you lose? And I said, I don't have a plan. I don't plan to lose, so I don't have a plan for what to do. And I remember the day I decided finally to concede the race. I posted on Facebook that I was conceding, and I said, okay, I ran to serve the children. Who's got a classroom that I can speak in tomorrow?
Mm.
And I got invitations to speak in classrooms for the next week. And I was literally in classrooms every day for the next week after I conceded the race. And I share that because it wasn't about winning for me, it was about serving the children. And I did that. And that turned into the consulting firm that I have now, where I get to travel the country and share my story with children and share my story with adults and inspire people and all the things that I campaigned on. I get to do all of those things now just from a different vantage point. And here's the other blessing of this. What happened in 2020? Schools got shut down. I would have had to run schools during the pandemic. And sometimes losing is the best thing that could possibly
Mhm.
happen to you. And for me, I'll tell you this, my husband is a teacher, my son is a teacher. There is no way that I would have been happy during 2020 if I'd had to run schools. And instead, I got to be home with two of my boys who were in college, came home and lived at home. My husband and I went on walks every day. We both got to teach from home. It was the biggest gift ever. And so I want to encourage you, first of all, try hard things. And if you try hard things, you're going to fail at hard things.
Yep.
And secondly, when you lose, learn from it. And if you learn, it's not a loss anymore. If you learn from the opportunity, and I learned and I got connected to people across the country. And now I have this flourishing consulting business that allows me to do all the things I campaigned on. I mentioned earlier that I also tried out for two WNBA teams. I left college in 1993, the year before the WNBA started. So there was no WNBA at the time I graduated from college, and I would have loved to have played pro. I actually came to America thinking I was going to play professional soccer. That was my dream. Soccer was my big sport. Coming from Europe, everybody played soccer. So I know to Americans that's weird, but back in the 80s, I loved soccer. And then I got to America and women were not playing soccer. So, but in Philly, everybody was playing basketball. So basketball really became my first love as a college student. And I loved and I played everywhere. I played at Villanova, I played at Penn, I played with Dr. J. Like I got to play with some really amazing people as a college student. And then I graduated from college and my husband and I got married about 6 weeks after graduation and I got pregnant with my first kid. And the WNBA started and that dream was gone. And I stopped nursing and the next day I got pregnant with my second kid. And it was like, oh, well, I guess that dream is gone. And then we moved to Washington State in
Blessings.
97 or 90, 97, because our son was 1 month old when we moved to Washington State. And we were here for about a year, and I was playing in a men's league. And we ended up taking in a little girl, my husband's sister's little girl. My husband's sister was struggling with life choices, and she asked us to take care of her daughter. And her daughter needed a lot of care, and so I had to stop playing basketball for a year and just take care of. So she is between my boys, so now they're 28, 29, 30, but at the time they were 3, 4, and 5. So it was a lot. It was a lot to
Oh
manage.
yeah, yeah. You had some excitement in the house,
I
girl.
had a lot. And so I stopped playing basketball for a year. Well, at the end of that year, I get this strange phone call, and it's the Seattle Storm front office, and they were like, "Do you want to try out for the Seattle Storm?" And what I should have said is, I am 28 years old. I have 3 little kids, and I have not touched a basketball for a year, but that's not what I said. What I said is, when our tryouts, and I would end up trying out for not 1 team, but 2 teams. On a Friday, I tried out for the Seattle Storm. On a Saturday, I tried out for the Portland Fire. The most amazing athletic experience of my life. And I knew by Saturday, this is not how I want to live my life. I'm not trying to do this right now at 28 years old. And I got seen by a coach there. I didn't make the WNBA. I didn't make either team, but I got seen by a coach. And it turns out I was the oldest woman with the most children to try out for the WNBA that year. And this coach was so impressed with me, she asked if I would be the player captain the following year and
Oh,
play against the Mexican Olympic team in Mexico City. And so at 30 years old, I got to go to Mexico City and represent the United States and be our player
ah,
captain translator for the American team and play in exhibition games all over Mexico City. And on my birthday, my 30th birthday, I got to share my personal story with 5,000 people in an outdoor stadium in Spanish. And so
wow.
again, I did a hard thing. I didn't achieve the goal that I thought I
Right.
wanted, but a door opened up to this other thing that I could not have imagined had I not
There's
done the first
something
thing.
about keeping yourself open, like
Yep.
not shutting down.
Yep.
Like when one door closes, another opens up. But if it opens up and we don't see it, or we don't push it open, then we kind of get stuck.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
that's what we don't want to do.
Right.
And you wow, and you got to use your language. I mean, you were using Spanish. You knew Spanish when you got here, right?
I did.
Wow.
So she
Yeah.
and the coach, when she asked me to be the player captain, she actually didn't know that I spoke Spanish. And so it wasn't until we got to Mexico that she was like, wait, you also speak Spanish? I
Yeah.
said, I do. And so and now my husband and I go to Mexico every summer now, all because of
Awesome.
that trip to Mexico.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow, wow. I was gonna look at some of these comments here. Every folks love your shirt. They love your shirt. Yeah, chase the dream, not the fame. Yes. Love that inner voice. And we have some educators on here that really understand that the analogy of the engine and the gas and the oil hit home. I
Mm,
understand. I too am an educator. I push my kiddos to the yard when she needs a
mhm.
break. So yeah, this is value. Wow. Wow. Some of the questions I was going to ask you, you have already answered. I like I often talk about having a routine in the
Yeah.
morning to kind of set the tone of the
Yep.
day, kind of ground myself. And it's just so important in helping me show up in my,
Yeah.
with my best self in
Yeah.
tow. And so I think, it sounds like you have, certain routines that you do, and even physical fitness, taking care of your body,
Yeah.
those routines that, seem selfish, but have benefits for everybody around you.
Yep.
When you're grumpy, it's nice to eat, maybe
Mhm.
work out, go for a walk, take some deep breaths. Those things, they benefit you and they benefit the people around us. Um,
Can I
before,
share
yeah,
can I share 3 strategies that I use with groups of people, that for those of you who are educators and work with groups of people, small or large groups of people, children or adults, I have 3 strategies that I use in every space that, I actually wrote a book back in 2022. I wrote it in 2021, published in 2022, called Bridges to Heal Us, but there are 3 strategies that I talk about everywhere I go. Start every meeting that you'd have with gratitude. And that could be just getting your kids out of bed and starting with gratitude. Choosing gratitude as a practice will reshape our brain chemistry, and it helps us show up in the world with purpose and with a positive framing of things. I think, especially right now, when it feels like the world is on fire, gratitude helps us focus on what is good and what is working, and not get so caught up in the fires that are burning around us that we don't have control over. So I really want to encourage you to make
mhm,
gratitude part of your practice. So every meeting that I lead, we always start with gratitude. I'll have people turn and tell a partner what's one thing you're grateful for. With children, I do the same. So gratitude is number one. Number two, really talking about what does it mean to be brave in a space, and I intentionally get people to talk about that when I'm in groups of people and I'm facilitating meetings, is what does brave mean? And there are 3 things that brave means for me that
mhm,
I try to lead with wherever I go. Number 1, vulnerability. I will always lead with my own personal story, because I don't believe we can ask people to do what we're not willing to do. So I believe really intentionally in modeling that. I don't believe in shame, blame, and guilt. And I think there's a lot of that happens in American culture right now that's not helpful. It's not helpful to tell people they're stupid or racist or sexist, or nobody responds well to
it's,
that.
it
And
closes the
no,
conversation right
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. So I don't believe in shame, blame, and guilt, but also towards yourself. So when you make mistakes, which you're going to, be kind to yourself. So apologize and then pivot back to learning and doing better. So one, vulnerability. Two, no shame, blame, or guilt. Third thing is stay curious. Being brave requires staying curious about yourself and about people around you. So my first practice is gratitude. Second is creating a brave space. And third is pausing.
Thank
So much of our conflict, I believe, comes from responding in the moment in ways that are not healthy. And if we were just to pause before you hit send on that email, before you post that Facebook post or Instagram post or TikTok video, just pause. And if there's something coming up in you, just pause and take a moment, walk around the block, do some deep breathing.
you. Mhm.
Imagine if every world leader just paused before they responded, how
And just,
differently things could
yeah,
be.
yeah, and just, recognize that feeling. Recognize,
Mhm,
be aware of what your body is doing,
mhm,
because our body, before anything comes out of our mouths, our body is giving us clues that
mhm,
something is unsettled. We
mhm.
get hot, sweaty, heart beats.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can feel the heat coming right up your body, and
yeah,
taking that moment to pause, take a
yeah,
deep breath, take some time to do something for you, is pretty key.
yeah.
Wow. Well, what's the name of your book again?
It's called Bridges to Heal Us: Stories and Strategies for Racial Healing,
And where can we get that?
on Amazon. Can I read the poem that starts the book?
Please.
Okay. I wrote this book. What I didn't share about my personal story, our my parents' family, especially my mom's side. Sorry, mom. My mom's side of the family was not always real excited about me being part of the family, and didn't really know how to talk about race. Um, and so there were just, I think, throughout my life with family, there have just been some conflicts around not understanding how to talk about race. And with George Floyd being murdered in Minnesota, which is where my family's from, there were just a lot of conflicts around not knowing how to talk with family about race. And so I felt compelled to write a book to really invite people to conversations, to hard conversations. And I think we suck at having conversations in mixed company about race and gender and politics and faith because we've been told to not talk about those things. And you can't get good about talking about something if you don't do it.
Yep, you got to
So
practice.
I decided to write a book, but this is the poem that opens the book. And it's really my prayer to so many people who are out there trying to figure out their purpose. It's called Sisterhood, but this is for the brothers and all the other folks too. I want to be the me I didn't have as a girl. I want you to love your hair and your skin and your curves and your height or lack thereof. I want you to know you are smart enough and pretty enough and strong enough. I want you to know it's okay to not fit in because the girls who say they do are really just pretending. I want to be the me I didn't have as a young adult. I want you to know you don't need a man. I want you to know you don't have to know where you will be 20 years from now. I want you to know mistakes are part of the journey. I want to be the me I didn't have as an executive. I want you to know your voice matters. I want you to know you belong there. I want you to embrace opportunities to learn from other great people. I want to be the me I didn't have as a politician. I want you to know you can be your full self, even if they say it will cost you the election. I want you to be the author of your own story. I want you to maintain your integrity because you'll have to live with yourself afterwards, win or lose. I want to be the me I didn't have so you can be the you were meant to be.
Wow. Well said. Well received. I think that's what we all need to hear, to be reminded that we're enough, more than enough, and
Mm-hmm.
right where we're supposed to be. Wow. Thank you so much, Erin.
You're welcome.
Um, I would just where can people find you? Where are you these
I,
days?
I am all over. I actually have a website, erinjonesdreams.com. So you can find all my social media links are there. So I'm on TikTok and Instagram. Right now, I felt like God said, write something every day starting inauguration day. So on Facebook, Erin Jones 2016, I have been, except for spring break, those 7 days that I felt like God said, take off, don't even look at social media. Every other day, I've tried to post one thing a day to just encourage people, and sometimes that encouragement is challenging. I mean, it's taking what's happening in the news and trying to frame it. But I feel compelled to write there. So if you like to read writing, I am writing something every day on Erin Jones 2016 on Facebook. TikTok, I am typically there once a day, just sharing something. We have my business partner and I have something called Project Kindness. And so
Yes, I saw that.
we do gatherings every Sunday afternoon on Zoom at 2 o'clock. And we just talk about what does kindness look like for you this week and really creating a space for people who are just looking for some encouragement to think about practically what would it look like to be kind right now and how can we challenge each other to be more kind in the world. So but you can find all of that at erinjonesdreams.com.
All right. Thanks, Erin. And we've got Dawn says awesome poem. Mitch is loving each and every one of those steps that you gave.
Mm.
Gratitude, brave, pause. Um, I think, and somebody asked for the name of the book, and you gave it, so that's good. Um,
I
thanks for
also have
sharing your
3 TED Talks.
strategies.
I have 3 TED
Yes,
Talks. So
you
yeah.
will. She has 3 TED Talks. She has the book. She's yeah, on all the social media platforms. You can find Erin easily. Just type in her name, and all sorts of things will come up. Good things. I really appreciate you. Oh, you mentioned something that you do every day, that moment of gratitude. Is there anything that you are grateful for, especially today?
Today, well, I'm grateful. I was talking about my mom earlier, who is a caregiver for my dad who has Parkinson's. I get to have lunch with my mom today, and I'm really grateful. I lived in America for 20 years without my parents. So they lived in Europe across an ocean. Um, I think most of you watching will remember the times when we didn't have Facebook and we didn't have internet and we didn't have cell phones. And so, they lived far, far away from me at a time when all we had was a landline and it cost $5 a minute. And it's
Mm-hmm.
I am so grateful that they are now about 5 miles away from me. And we try to go to lunch, just she and I, once a month. And then I try to go to lunch with she and my dad a couple times a month. Um, and I'm just grateful that they live close by. I'm grateful that they're still alive. She turned 81 last month. My dad will turn 81 in a couple months. And I'm just grateful they're still with me and I get to still see them. It's hard to watch my dad struggle with Parkinson's. That's
Yeah,
really
that's hard.
tough, and, I'm still glad he's around, so
Yes,
that's what I'm
yes.
grateful for.
I'm really grateful that they loved on you so much because I don't think you'd be who you are
Mm-mm,
today, as you mentioned.
mm-mm.
They loved you into being, loved you into life,
Yeah,
lifing the way you're doing.
yeah,
So, so
yeah.
grateful. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up in a minute. I am going to, Erin, don't go anywhere yet. Okay. Um, folks, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I really wanted to just, you know, share an example of a woman um, who really has been living out a lot of the things that I talk about on the podcast. Um, we are not, our circumstances, where we start doesn't mean that's where we're going to end up. It doesn't have to dictate the trajectory of our lives. Um, and roadblocks are going to come up. And oftentimes, we don't have to let them be the end all. We can remain curious and move forward. And oftentimes we can transform those things that we thought were setbacks into setups for even better things. So I just encourage you to, remain open to that light in you that is dying to get out and to be shared with the world. Your gifts are not meant to be kept to yourself. And I'm just hoping that this podcast today was inspiring and gave you some hope and encouragement to go out, remain grateful, a heart of gratitude, bring your positive energy to the world, which needs it and will be drawn to you as you share it. So as we end this podcast, if you have any questions for me, or if you want to reach out to me, you can direct message me. And otherwise, I will see you next Monday. In the meantime, unleash your brilliance, uncover your light, and have a great week. Take care.